This is a cup of Yapon tea. It is the only caffeinated drink that is native to North America. It is not closely related to this, which is a cup of black tea, much less this, which is a cup of coffee. Or this, which has guarana, or this, which is yerba mate, and none of those are related to this, which is chocolate. But all of those things have caffeine. And you might be thinking like, no, Hank, chocolate has theobromine. And yes, that is chocolate's main stimulant, but chocolate always has a little bit of caffeine, and sometimes quite a bit of it. Tea, coffee, cola, cacao, guarana, yapon, yerba mate. None of these plants share a common ancestor that created caffeine. They all developed it 100% on their own in totally different parts of the world. Which seems very weird, but it actually isn't the weird part. Actually, if you know enough, the fact that these all make caffeine isn't weird at all. But there's something very weird. It's the thing that we always look past, but we're gonna get to it. First, we have to talk about caffeine, which looks like this. You might often see it tattooed on someone's forearm. But one thing you should see tattooed on more forearms is this, which is adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. You think your energy comes from caffeine? Well, wait until you hear about ATP. But we're not gonna talk about the various ways that the body stores energy. No, instead, over here you're gonna notice a little group of atoms that looks not terribly unlike caffeine. That little bit, if you break it off ATP, is called adenine, and it is a very important molecule. You might recognize it as one of the 4 nitrogenous bases of both DNA and RNA. Once life had adenine to work with, and it's had it pretty much the whole time, it did a lot with it. All living things, including plants, have enzymes that do a bunch of chemistry on adenine, turning it into hormones and waste products and energy storage. Messing with adenine is one of the main things life does, so it's not surprising that occasionally a plant might start making a bit of this adenine-derived molecule called caffeine. Probably because some other adenine-related synthesis wasn't going quite right, but it resulted in a new thing. And oftentimes, when a plant creates this unnecessary accidental byproduct, that plant will be more likely to survive and reproduce than nearby plants because caffeine is a bug poison. Now, it's also a people poison. If you eat like 4 or 5 grams of it, you will die. But it's more potent of a poison for bugs. Part of that's just dose. Like, a bug has to eat a lot of leaf to get the nutrients it needs to survive, and it's gonna eat a lot of caffeine along the way, and it's gonna get super dosed with this molecule. The wild thing is that caffeine does the same things in our bodies that it does in bug bodies. It just does it more dangerously in bugs because they get the higher dose, and also bugs are worse at processing the molecule. It does like 3 different things to bugs, and it does all 3 of those things to us. But the most important thing that it does in us, the biggest biochemical effect it has on us, is mimicking the neurotransmitter adenosine, which, as you might guess, also adenine derived. But with all of the different activity that it has inside of bugs, it makes them like seize up and jitter, and it shuts down their nervous systems, and then they die. It can also, by the way, poison plants, and you're never gonna guess how it does that. By mimicking adenosine! It does the same thing in plants! There's also some plant-specific effects, but basically, if a plant evolves to be able to contain a bunch of caffeine, which is toxic to the plant, but it also evolves immunity along with evolving the caffeine so that it can keep the bugs off of it, an additional thing that will happen is that it will poison the soil around it for any plant that isn't immune to caffeine. And that could be another advantage for the plant that makes caffeine. So basically, pretty much every time a plant evolves a mutation that causes it to churn out a little bit of caffeine, that plant gets eaten less. And because it's so similar to a bunch of other molecules that plants are already making, caffeine is easy to evolve and provides a large survival advantage, so it has evolved many times. Probably way more times than we know about. Maybe the best fact I learned about researching this video, some plants even evolved the ability to put a little bit of caffeine in their nectar so that bees will, instead of dying, get high off of the nectar and be more likely to return to that flower. What? I love that. Now, there's also some closely related molecules like theophylline, which there's a little bit of in tea, and theobromine, which is the big one in chocolate, and they act basically the exact same way. They are also insecticides, though not as potent as caffeine, and they have very similar effects on a person's body, though again, not as potent as caffeine. Because again, the reason it kills bugs, and thus the reason it evolved, is also the reason we like it. It's messing with our physiology, but just enough that it gives us that little extra pep, and it's also a little bit addictive without being so addictive that it ruins your life. But the weirdest thing about all of this isn't that each of these plants independently evolved caffeine. It's that humans independently evolved drinking teas made from each one of these caffeinated plants. And yes, coffee is technically a tea. Also, the Olmecs originally ate cacao as a tea, though probably it was so wildly and intricately spiced that you wouldn't recognize it as a tea. Definitely a drink, though. These are groups of humans separated by oceans and millennia, and they're all drinking caffeine. This is amazing. We love caffeine. We love it so much. The practice of drinking caffeine teas has arisen 7 different times. Tea in China and East Asia, coffee in the Horn of Africa and Arabia, cacao in Mesoamerica, cola nut in West Africa, guarana in the Amazon basin, yerba mate in the southern cone of South America, and yaupon in southeastern North America. But John, there is an 8th way. An 8th way that we get caffeine now, which is what's in here. What plant do you think the caffeine in sodas come from? Guess? Do you have it in you? That's right. The chemical plant. Did I shake it too much? I did. Now we could and sometimes do use the caffeine left over from decaf coffee, but that comes with a bunch of flavor from the coffee and is actually more expensive. So mostly beverages are caffeinated with caffeine made entirely by humans. We make it from scratch now. We're like, plants, I don't need you. I don't need you. Derived from petroleum. God, I don't love that drink, John. I'm sorry. Now, by far my favorite way of getting caffeine is tea, green tea or black, which are actually from the same plant, just prepared differently. I like tea because there's less caffeine per drink, which is great for me. And there's also more theophylline, which produces a milder vibe. I'm sweaty, jeez. Am I on drugs right now? There is some interesting research that an amino acid called L-theanine that is in tea can kind of combine with the caffeine to give you like a more chill vibe while keeping you aware. But to get real deep into that, I feel like I need to make a whole video about it. Regardless, my mornings are a little bit more delightful with a cup of tea than with a cup of coffee, just for me. And I think that's a part of why it remains the most popular drink in the entire world. John, after I first wrote this video, which is a while ago now, I realized that I needed to do a thing. I decided to put together an experience because that's one of my favorite things about teas, the experience. And so the experience I have created is a 6-month subscription to Keats & Co. loose leaf tea. Each month you get a different tea and you also get a little video from me where I talk about how I'm going to try to calm down for a second. Okay, let's take it again. Every month, you get a different tea, and you also get a little video from me where I talk about how I prepare my tea and have a cup while I chat with the camera. The teas are going to swap back and forth between caffeinated and herbal, and I've designed it to sort of start simply and then build from there. It's called Hank's Tea Experience, and the quantity is limited, shipping is free, and all the profit goes to help in the fight against tuberculosis, which may be the only thing more ubiquitous in the human story than caffeine. John, I'll see you on Tuesday.